Welcome to iHeartRadio So Bad It's Good. Today we have a returning guest, but it's a returning guest at just the right time. Not only does she have excellent opinions on all of pop culture, including Vanderpump Rules, which we just won't get away from for 5 weeks. So just accept it, lean into it, enjoy it, because it'll be like a desert after that. Hopefully, I pray for the desert that is to come, because there are so many great pop culture stories out there right now that I'm fully ignoring. And that we're all ignoring, and we shouldn't be ignoring, because we will have to get back to some sort of normalcy. And we did talk about so many exciting things before VPR, but while VPR is here for these next 5 weeks, let's really enjoy it and send it out with a bang. So today, our guest is not only an excellent podcaster. Last year when she was on, she was talking about her podcast, It's Become a Whole Thing, which you can find on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of those outlets, which she covers a wide range of pop culture topics. But she is coming back now with a book. This is actually a book. It's a journal, but I think this is one of the coolest ideas that are out there. And the reason why I think this is so cool is that I have this gratitude journal that I bought for myself. That every morning write down 3 things that you like, or that you're appreciative of, 3 things that you want to do today, and then you have to check in and it's a pain in the ass. It makes me feel bad, and it's like the minimum thing that you can do every morning, and I dread it. It is the last thing I do in the morning. But she wrote this journal called the Stuff I Hate Journal. And it's trends I hate, foods I loathe, people who annoy me, and everything else that's the absolute worst, by Emily Rose. And so let's get into this with our guest, Emily Rose. Emily, what's going on?
What an intro. Hey, RB, how's it going?
Hey, good. I really think this is such a genius idea. And if you, just for the audience, if you're looking at this, I know this is kind of a little blurry, and I'll put but this is a beautiful black journal, just says Stuff I Hate. And then if you open to any page, it just has something that'll make you laugh, but also something that potentially makes you think. I just opened to a page. It said, "You jerk. What's the worst thing someone said to you when you were younger?" And then now get in a time machine and go back to that moment. What's your perfect comeback? It actually makes you think. And this isn't, I want to also point out, it's the stuff I hate. Like, my title is So Bad It's Good. This isn't hateful. It is just stuff that we have to be honest about, that we go through life and sometimes have these negative experiences or feelings. And it's almost like you're able to exercise these demons. Is that what the purpose of this was?
Exactly. As much as it's called the Stuff I Hate Journal, you're meant to walk away feeling lighter. And the way that I wanted this journal to be is really, it takes the role of that friend that you love to vent with, and you just have such a good time laughing about what a bad day you had or about some interaction, and then you leave just like blowing off some steam and feeling lighter. So that's what this book is supposed to be. And I've realized, I thought it was going to be more of a niche thing, but I've realized that so many of us have that gratitude journal that's just sitting there, and we filled out 2 pages and we feel guilty about it. So much of this whole world of, I'm going to say, toxic positivity really haunted me for a lot of my life. And I was trying so hard to engage with it every day and like manifest gratitude all the time. And I realized
vision boards.
It was making me feel worse overall. And I think there's a time for both. There's a time for venting and time for gratitude. So it's meant to be complementary, and it's just there to let people know and serve as a reminder, like, it's okay to feel like shit and just laugh at it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that is the kind of thing that it highlights. And I don't know. I think it really actually is kind of encouraging more beautiful moments through this. And it is something, it's not niche. It's like you said, like that, this, I genuinely think everybody would want. It's, first off, it's a conversation piece if you want to even just put it out. If you have any guests there, I mean, you might not want them to see your writing, but also, this is the perfect gift for somebody. I was telling her that I put this in my stories last week, and I'd been meaning to do it for a sec, because I had it for a minute, but you guys know me. I'm extremely me. So it took a while. And then I had so many people respond to that of like, "This is amazing. Oh my God, I just checked this out on Amazon. Oh my God, I just ordered one." And people seem to genuinely be excited about this. This truly is the perfect gift, because it's not expensive. And it is one of those things that I think it's just one of those great things to be remembered by. Like, it really excites me that you did this, because I was like, wow, this is such a great idea. When was the first time that you actually thought about, like, I could put this potentially in journal form?
I feel like this is a moment where I need to disclose that this is a paid advertisement. Like, even though I'm not paying you, it's like
No.
to hear that it's so kind. No, like it's so kind. And I'm having this moment too. I'm remembering when I first heard you and Sophie Ross talking about on the podcast. I was like, is Simon and Schuster paying you guys secretly? Like, it's just like, I don't know. It's a real honor.
No,
And
listen, no, it's not. That's what I wanted to say to you. I told you I was going to say it's not okay. When I genuinely like something, it's really easy to support it and put it out there. It's like you've done a service to me because I'm like, oh, this is easy to talk about. It's hard to talk about things that you don't necessarily love, you don't necessarily understand. Or even if I have a guest on that's on a reality show that I don't necessarily love, I try to leave it with a positive experience, but sometimes it doesn't connect to me the way that I want it to.
Yeah.
But when something does connect to me, you're like, oh my God. And then you get to make me look cool because I get to then share it with more people because I have somewhat of an audience. And I'm like, okay, but it's like that show Jury Duty that I love. I'm like, oh, watch Jury Duty. It's so fun. It's so great. You're going to love it. It's so positive. It's so easy to shout out things that you actually do like. You know?
I'm the same way. Like, I get so excited about certain things. Like, there's certain products that like I talk about all the time, and I'm sure the company doesn't even know who I am or cares. I'm like, guys, seriously, sounds like an ad, but I just am so excited about some random thing that I discovered. So yeah, I'm the same way. And actually, you know, you mentioned it being like the conversation piece. So I've had a former guest on my podcast, Molly McPherson. She's a PR expert. Has she been on your podcast? Maybe.
Is her Twitter name Molly Mulshine?
No. Sorry, Molly McPherson. Yeah, I might be mixing.
Okay,
all podcasts are blending together.
I know it really. We're all just one big podcast, you guys. That's what I always say. Listen to us all. It supports us all. There's room for all. But man, there is a lot of us out there, and that's a great thing.
Yeah, exactly. But I sent a copy to her, and she said that her and her teenage daughters turned it into a party game, which I thought was like so cool. Of just all like answering the questions and yeah, I mean, for me, it's been this process of kind of undoing a lot of damage. Like, I think for maybe like my 20s, and some of my early 30s, like I was just really deep in the world of like spirituality, and there were certain parts of it that just really messed me up. And a big part of it was this trying to be positive and like your thoughts become reality, which if you actually dig into that, it's almost like this guilt. It's like a guilt trip because bad things are just going to happen. And if you're saying to yourself like, oh, your thoughts created this, so then what? They create all the bad things? Like, don't, you know, and it's like saying, don't think of a purple elephant. All you're going to do is think of a purple elephant. Like, it's just, it made me crazy.
In this past season of Beverly Hills going like, I couldn't keep that secret because it would give me cancer. I got to get it out. I got to get it, give me cancer. And I thought it was the most ridiculous thing in the world. But it is that, I mean, like when you say things like that, I hearken back to, you know, being a teenage boy, being like all of these, like, I got to be positive, or like picking up a Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People book, or Matthew McConaughey said to read The Greatest Salesman in the World. And you would read it and you'd be like, okay, I got to do this stuff. And it falls away so quickly because you can't keep up. There's something not natural to you. Your brain is fighting it, but you want to be positive. You want to be some sort of light in the world. And sometimes that's just not who we are. It's not how we feel. And it's disingenuous. I think that's where a lot of lies actually come from. I mean, by the way, I think that's where Scandoval comes from. You know, this guy trying to be insanely positive and like, Raquel, you're amazing, dude. You got so much. You're amazing. And there's a lot of darkness behind that.
Well, exactly. And like, you know, there's a lot of things that Lala Kent has said that we just happen to differ on that. But one thing I'll just say that. But one thing that she did say was how much Sandoval reminds her of Randall Emmett in a lot of ways, like in the like super outgoing, like gifts, all this stuff. And I really see that because they kind of always had a smile on their face, or most of the time, at least in public. But there's a lot more behind that. And, you know, it's not just the world of like spirituality, but like, you know, like you said, like how to win friends and influence people. It's like career advice. One of my prompts is about influencers who sort of have that perfect morning routine, that perfect, like, here's how
Get ready with me, GRIM, WM.
Yeah, here's how to meal prep and drink room temperature lemon water when you wake up. And it's like, imagine, you know, what's actually going on behind the scenes. And so it's just like this catharsis, because no one's actually living like that, I'm convinced.
Well, I mean, and when you try to live with like that, you can only do it for like 7 days before it falls off. And then when you fall off, you feel bad about the falling off. So then you spend your day feeling bad about how do I get back on track? I had this whole bit. It's not a bit. I've always felt this way of like, as you get older, and you guys know as you're listening, if you're getting there yourself, is that every day you have to add more to your routine just to get out of bed. It's like the multivitamin, the fish oil, I'm supposed to have a facial routine. Even as a dude, I'm supposed to learn how to take care of my face. And then, yeah, like have the warm water with lemon. You got to have a little thing as a base. You got to watch. And by the end of the day, you've done 80 things that have nothing to do with your career, nothing to do, just to try to get out the door sometimes.
Yeah, and if you've fallen off, then you're a degenerate. Like,
yes,
you know,
and you really feel like a degenerate. You're like, how are these people out there doing this? And I mean, sometimes I will get into that influence. I will get sucked in where I'm like, how are these people living their lives like this? There's one person in particular that's very nice, but I'm like, how does she do this? She's like, here's what I eat in a day. And I'm like, wait, what the? Like, I'm literally going in the fridge looking for whatever's left over and like shoving it in my gullet and then feeling bad about that. And, you know, it's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm coming to you like, you know, for me, it's 2 p.m. while we're recording. I realized I hadn't eaten anything before we start recording. So I shoved some trail mix, you know, in my mouth. And like, that's where I'm at. Like, I'm exhausted. And I think I've realized actually through putting out this book, the great irony of it is that it's made me feel so much more positive about the world because of how many people have been like, yes, I feel this way too. It's funny you bring up Scandoval because I haven't talked about this too much publicly because it's one of those things I wanted to kind of keep like as a little sort of inside joke.
Oh, you hooked up with him, didn't you?
Yeah, you know, I am, I am just one of, no, I actually hid, about 5 Vanderpump Rules Easter eggs in the journal. And I wrote this. Okay, I'm having like a very out of body moment with the whole Scandoval thing because Vanderpump Rules has been my comfort show. Like, it's been a special interest of mine. I've loved it for many, many years before I had a podcast. And I just kind of had this running joke with the folks on my Patreon and that I put these Easter eggs in and they were like, oh my God, it's like your little Taylor Swift moment. And it's one of those things where like, if the editors are listening, hey guys, I don't think you know about this, but no one would notice if you didn't watch the show. I'll tell you the most obvious one. But one of the prompt titles is Rotten Hail, you know? So if you're Rotten Hail. Yeah. So it's one of those things where there's little lines snuck in that would stand out to you if you're a big fan. And if you're not, it'll just seem like a normal everyday thing to say. So I had a lot of fun writing it. And now it's like, I don't know. I'm having this moment where I'm like, this is like this little kind of niche show that's now blown up, and I almost don't even know what to do with it.
Well, it is interesting. And this is so funny. I was just watching this 4-part, this sounds insane, 4-part docuseries on UFOs. And I was like, okay, let's get off the Scandoval stuff, UFOs. But on the 4th part, it was talking about, you know, when a niche topic or something that a lot of people, you know, like a lot of people don't really know what it's about or something, and they can make fun of it from afar. And then all of a sudden it gets brought into, you know, when there's like the New York Times covers it or the Washington Post, you know, it all of a sudden gives credibility. They were talking about this, of course, with UFOs, but I was really relating it to Scandoval and Vanderpump Rules is that we've been fans since day one. So now when everybody's hopping on board, when you have the New York Times, when you have NBC News, when you have all of these people doing things, it actually adds this legitimacy that us as fans, it's always been legitimate for. But now it's legit.
Totally.
And I was thinking about this too, is guys, when we've talked about this many times, but Coachella a couple years ago when I was there with Sandoval and Raquel and Ariana
last year.
That Sunday, Coachella. I was there when you, I regret Raquel. She said
I never really loved you. We're activated. Never really loved you. Never.
I never loved you. Not like Ali. Ali's beautiful and equine and very sleek.
That's Lisa Vanderpump. She was hitting us with the horse metaphors. I was
you've got to put a bit in his mouth, dear girl. You've got to ride him like a donkey.
Was it just me or was she wasted in the last episode? I was
I think she was like, she was fully on one.
She was in birthday mode, like 2 sheets to the wind. talking
She was,
about James like he was a horse.
And then at Sir, she was with Nick Elaine. Oh, Nick. She was like sitting next to Nick Elaine, her steampunk designer. That I mean, like, and Ken's just in there, like, going, like, where am I? Tom Sandoval in the jacuzzi with Raquel.
Ken's gonna need to rest for like a month after how much he's been on screen, like the past.
It's been a while. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since we've had a Ken heavy season.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say,
yeah,
Ariana met because Emily, you know, she started being known because of her TikToks that she was doing. And she talks about mental health, pop culture, all of these things. And Ariana is a huge fan of Emily's. And so I got to watch that first meeting of you guys out there. And it was just very interesting because they like Tom was there, Raquel was there, Sheena was there, Brock was there. And I just found that interesting too, of like a year later, you know, Tom wasn't able to go to Coachella. Raquel wasn't able to be there at Coachella. But that was the first time you met. Like, you guys, you know, she loves you. Was that weird?
I mean, it was beautiful. Like, it was really, I really appreciate that moment. And it was a really transcendent moment for me because I had Jared Lipscomb on my podcast a few weeks ago. And I was talking about how Jared. I've had some like pretty profound life moments that are in common with Ariana, and I just basically during those times I didn't know anyone in my personal life who had gone through similar things. And so funny enough, like with this show of like, I'm sorry, just degenerates, like she really was someone who like I was like, okay, you know what, people have gone through this, she's gone through this, and on camera no less, and I can too. And getting to tell her about that in person was really amazing. But Jared was like, yeah, basically that happens like every time she leaves the house, you know? But no, it was really amazing, a really full circle moment. And since then, like, cause okay, her and I are both horse girls. It's not a popular thing. It's not cool. Everyone likes to make fun of the horse
ride
girls.
Men like horses. Yes.
Yeah, not a Lisa Vanderpump weird, like, ew, like the way she's talking about, like, Jiggy's so sexy. Like, it's not like
my dogs, look how sexy they are with their little tushes.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like I'm not trying to like use like horse allegories, but like we just every once in a while we'll like tag each other in horse videos and like send horse videos back and forth. And I remember a week before Scandoval broke, I sent her this video of like a horse rehabilitation farm. She was just like, oh my God, I wish I was living there. And then this happened, and I just was like, God, you know, as much as this is like everything being turned upside down, I'm sure there was just like pressure building. And it's like this release in a way of just like, you know, just wanting to like escape and being stuck in this like weird unsaid world of things.
Not feeling good of like, but also not being able to pinpoint exactly why you're feeling so down. And now it's like, okay, this is it. It's like those pimple popping videos on TikTok. I'm like, yeah, release.
I know. And you know, so it's funny, when I saw you guys at Coachella, it was just you two. And this is something that like you just said in passing. You're like, oh yeah, like Sheena's here and Tom and Raquel, like they were just here, they're off somewhere. And I was like, okay, cool. And I remember because my friends were leaving, and it was like one of those moments where I was like, okay, if I was younger and irresponsible, I would just like, you know, turn my phone off and party all night. But I'm like, no, I gotta go get my ride and leave. As much as I didn't want to, but I was like, what were they doing? Like, where were they?
Dude, Emily, that's the crazy thing is like, because I would swear up and down to you even before that. I was like, guys, no. I mean, like Raquel was like so quiet. She was with Jesse Montana and she's with all these other people. I would not have thought that in a million years. And to me, it's still hard for me to think that because I was like, oh, I think they were like, I knew they were there. My other friend was with them over here. So it's hard. But now that's the thing with this Scandoval. I can tell you what I think, but at this point, anything's possible. Like anything is truly possible with these men. Like and as a man myself, and I wrote this down to myself to talk about later, is like, what have we learned from Scandoval? What have we learned? And as a man, it's like, we do not think correctly sometimes. And I think the overall like overarching thing of like, this is what happens when you cheat. This is fully what happens when you cheat. Maybe not to this extent, but this is what happens. This is a perfect learning lesson. This is something you can take away from it. But what have you learned as a woman watching this? Because is it just literally the same, men are trash, that's what men do? Because I think that's such an easy way out for men. We can't just like say we're all trash so then we get to do these things.
Well, okay, so yeah, there's a lot of thoughts, but the most recent season of Queer Eye just came out, and I watched the first episode, and it was like these guys in a fraternity, and Karamo had them all crying around a fire. It was like, of course, Karamo. Karamo's like, let's get to the trauma, but they're like these very sweet boys, and they're talking about like how hard it is for them to let out emotions, and like I'm like, leave it to Queer Eye for me to like really feel for men and be like, oh my god, like wanting to like hug these frat guys. Like I it's like, that's what that show does. But we do live in that world, and like I can say, oh, men are trash, like, until I'm blue in the face, but ultimately I also hold space for like many truths at once.
Yes.
And okay, in terms of like, I've watched the show and I've rewatched the show, and it took a lot of rewatches. Like, this was before Scandoval broke, but to be like, wait, Tom Schwartz is not just this goofy little lovable goofball. Like, he's actually like a really vitriolic man, and he's a bad man. And we had this chilling realization on my podcast recently with my co-host Sammy Pete, where we realized that Jax is the only man on the show who's like a true kind of like almost feminist, and the only one who views women as whole people.
Emily, that's interesting, but I'm going to push back just a hair on that.
Please do.
I feel like he is a feminist in the sense that he knows how evil men can be because he is one. Like, he knows what he's a feminist because he knows how he's treated women himself, and he knows actually the true thoughts that go through these men's heads because he has them. The only thing that I think is interesting, and what I keep talking to my audience about, is like, Jax, don't come back to this show because it brings out the worst in you. From this perch right now, you can actually say these things and people will start to believe them. I've heard like literally rewriting history with Jax Taylor. Like, oh my God, what did this? And like, if you watch the show, he has done like, I legitimately never thought somebody would come for his title, and I never thought it would be Sandoval, but now Sandoval is king cheap. But it's wild. Like, I think he's a feminist in the sense that he truly loves women and wants the best for women. But when it comes to him, I don't think he necessarily walks that walk as much as he would like to. And that's why I want him to potentially stay away, because I don't want him to ruin his family at all.
Okay, so I actually agree with you. And when I say, okay, I need to actually clarify my statement there for everyone who's like typing your DMs. I want you to like pause on your paragraph you're writing me. You're writing me an angry message at the moment. No, but I'm talking about like just compared to the other men on the show. So like right now, everyone's loving James Kennedy, and that's actually making me a little bit, to be honest, little bit uncomfortable, because I'm like,
guys, you remember all of the stuff that he's done,
like, there was a lot that like, I am obviously I'm on team Ariana. I'm very freaked out by Rachel and her behavior, but when she said that she wanted to leave James Kennedy in the middle of the night, like I actually, like, there was certain things unsaid there that I just like, I am like not gonna, I'm gonna let everyone like make what they will with that. But like, there's things that happened season 9 that I'm like, we didn't fully dig into it, but there are some sketchy things. And considering the fact that if you so much as piss James off, he's calling you a fat slut, like that's
what I say. I live in fear of the day that I piss DJ James Kennedy off, where he hears about it and he's like, Ryan, you fat fuck with your big belly, you fatso, because that's his go-to. Exactly. But remember spitting on Dodie, remember the drunken, there was alleged violence, there was alleged drug use, and by the way, I'm not saying people don't change, but I find it weird that we have to makes hero worship somebody to bash somebody else. Like, and two things can be true at once.
Exactly. And like, I get that James, he's great for TV. He's actually perfect for TV because he's so emotional. He says really funny lines, but the fact that everyone's like, oh my God, like, he's so hot this season, he's a swear. I'm like, look, I get that he makes me laugh too. Look, when he said that Tom's a poo-poo head, like, yes, of course I laughed, but like,
brilliant.
But I'm not forgetting what he did. And when you think about him, Tom, all of them have screamed at women, degraded them, insulted their personality, their looks. Tom Schwartz has poured drinks on multiple women's heads. Like, Jax actually, just only compared to them, where the bars
by default,
he has not actually like degraded women in that way. He's mostly fought men. He hasn't never poured a drink on anyone's head. He's never insulted their appearance, as far as I can remember. Like, so just he has a wife.
He did. There was some choice words about Dodie in terms of like, I mean, just kind of the listen, you know, I never kissed her, you know, I raw dogged her, but that was it. I never like, there were some interesting ways in speaking about women in terms of sexual objects, but I think I know what you're saying in terms of like, what, wait, no, Emily, now it's coming to me. I disagree completely now, because he was the one that came out with Ariana making fun of her mental health and making fun of her bisexuality.
True. Okay.
And Jax then, when he realized that actually had some play in it, he then said to everyone that he was going through mental health issues in his final season and that his brain was bruised. Remember that whole season?
His brain was strained. His brain was strained. I say that now.
But no, that made me livid, because I was friends with, I was like, fuck this dude. Because how dare you make fun of somebody's sexuality and make fun of somebody's mental health? I mean,
he did. He tried to, oh my God, it's all coming back to me now. It's like, it's crazy because we have 10 years of like facts filed away. But like, I even forget that Kristen dated James, you know, like there's so many like big plot lines. But yeah, no, you're right. Like he worse than insulting it, he was like, oh, you change your sexuality every 5 minutes, like, and then all of a sudden, like, he's capitalizing on Scandoval. I know a lot of them are, but
he's like, I respect Ariana, and Brittany's like, Jackson and Ariana getting along great right now. We love, you know, and by the way, I want to say, because I know Jared, who's been on the show a bunch and been on yours, he's really good friends with them, and he says the nicest things about them. And like, really will point out things that they've done for him, and to, you know, like, and they truly are. And that's why it's like two things can be true at once. Like, they can be really amazing people and amazing friends. And at times, you know, you can be completely livid at them, how they've handled the situation. And as I get older, that's the hard part, to be able to marry those two things in my mind of not everybody's just universally evil. Like, you have certain situations in life that you don't handle correctly, but we do have to leave room for forgiveness and grace and all of those things. Right.
Yeah, totally. And like, you know, I think about even just the people in my personal life, and like, oh, sorry, am I frozen?
No,
okay.
I see it.
Okay, perfect. I think about my own personal life, and recently, so last year I moved back to the city that I'm from, and I got kind of like reacquainted with some people that I've known since high school, but I haven't really talked to in the last 10 years. And there was just a lot of like, there was some kind of behavior from the men that I was like, I remember you doing this and saying these things in the early 2000s. It's not cute anymore. Like, you know, we've learned that those are not okay to say, but I was like kind of giving it a pass. I was like, oh, that's just the way that they are. And then it kind of like, it got to a point where I was like, oh my God, like, why am I like making myself uncomfortable and saying quiet? Like, but I was just kind of like in this mode of like, oh, that's just, you know, that's just the way that they are. And like all this to say that these things are messy, and it's not like this person is evil, this person is not. Like, there really are shades of that. And, you know, like with Jerry, like he's seen Jax amp up his personality for the show. He's seen him also when the cameras are down, like, and it's just, there are layers to it. And so that's why, like, when I said Schwartz is a bad man, I don't say that lightly. Like, I don't jump on that and say that about a lot of people. I'm saying this partly because I think he's getting off a bit scot-free. I think he's now on this new show about like going to space or some shit.
Leave him there. Leave him in Mars, man.
Yeah. And I just really think that Sandoval is being held to the fire. Schwartz not as much.
Schwartz once again has like kind of escaped. Like, it's weird. Like, he's always failed upwards, but now he's kind of escaped, because this season, as we saw in this past week's episode, which was supposed to be the season finale, there is so many ways he has, and it's come to light, has abused Katie in a lot of ways. And Katie, like I always said, had the cardinal sin of not being as charming as Schwartz on camera. So she's been kind of, and you know, she's just not said the right things, and she's come off sometimes as a, you know, what people say, like a shrew or somebody like really da da da. And now you see why this behavior was kind of like pulled out of her because this man would never take her side. This man, even in that final conversation of like, come on, babe, Raquel's trying to apologize. Why is that even? There's no conversation with Raquel that needs to be had. The conversation is between you two.
Yeah, I completely get it. And like, I've had my share of like dysfunctional dynamics in my past, and I look at the way that I acted in those times, and like, I'm unrecognizable to who I am now. Like, because it brought out the worst in me. And if you had the cameras on me, I'm sure I would look like a crazy bitch, like in those dynamics, if you didn't know the full backstory. And I'm sure, and that's probably how I was acting, because, in those situations, like, where else do you go? I mean, you should probably just leave, but it's not always the case. And so for Schwartz, like, it's just this whole like, oh, gee willikers. But, because he's a good looking man, he's failed upwards and people have dragged him along. But I think about the triplets, and I'm like, more and more I'm realizing like his triplet brothers, like, they're not that different, like in terms of their like level.
Emily, that's what I was thinking about that this weekend, because I was watching Tom Sandoval TikTok videos of his performances, and he's got the shirt off, he's got the dick veins all over his body, he's like, yeah, and the performance is subpar. The band is really, and I've enjoyed those performances before because I really supported Tom, so it was really fun to be there and watch somebody that you admired like do cover songs. And when this happened, some 9-month affair that there were so many lies involved, like, it's not fun to watch for me anymore. But I was still watching girls throw themselves up against him and like shriek, and you realize that it's still, even if we know all of this stuff, at the end of the day, a lot of us will be wary, but a lot of us, I mean, it's not going to affect their lives at all. In fact, I would argue for Schwartz particularly, he will get more action than he's ever gotten before, because he still has this "you need to take care of me" vibe that people are still not seeing. Like, we can talk till we're blue in the face, but it is not going to matter for these people that have never met a celebrity in their lives and get to like, oh my God, he was so nice to me. He talked to me and he said something very personal to me and he gave me his number, and I am just the biggest Schwartz fan now for the rest of my life. It's not going to change anything.
No, and I actually think it's because he's like, quote unquote, a bad boy, and because he's an enemy that he's getting fans now, like certain fans. Because I saw those videos too, where like he's in the crowd and all these women are touching him, and he's like, really, I think he like kissed one of them, or he's like rubbing up against them, and it like not to say that he's at this level, but like serial killers have fans, like
well, oh my God, Emily, I said that a couple like a month ago. I go, if this hadn't have come, I mean, listen, I know this is a leap, you guys, but I shit you not, this is how Dateline NBCs start, where they're like, this man cannot face the truth so much that they do something so horrific. And you know what I'm alluding to, because they can't actually tell this person the truth. And then horrible things happen. You see it all the time, especially in the 2-hour Datelines, because they're like, he couldn't tell her the truth. And then they become like, and he was creating this more elaborate lie. He was including people, like Schwartz said, it was an open secret to a handful of people.
Yep.
And thank God this got found out, not because of Tom, because of an accident. But otherwise, bad things happen.
Yeah, it's funny. I wasn't even going to talk about this publicly, because like sometimes you say things and like people are like,
believe me, I know it's like it's too far, Ryan, too far.
Yeah, and it's like, God, I'm like kind of joking, and I'm like, also obviously I'm not saying he's a killer, but like I actually messaged Emily Hanks of She Speaks Bravo, and like, because she posted one of those videos, and I was like, Ted Bundy had stands too, like, and she was like, yeah, we were just laughing about that.
Dude, the Idaho killer has stands already. Like, guys, if you want a good marriage, be a serial killer. They always get like wedding proposals. Yes. The Menendez brothers, which people are now still in flux if they did it, or not did it, but like, it's so wild. 30% of people will still love you no matter what you do. And that's a scary thought. And especially if you're a man. If you are a man, if you're a woman serial killer, you're not going to have as easy of a road. And by the way, like, I want to point out again, we're joking, but I want to, we're both talking and we're both students of pop culture. And now kind of murder and things like that in these last decade has become part of pop culture, but they share similarities in just human behavior. Human behavior and lies and women and cheating, it all goes into this one big cauldron for me.
Exactly. Exactly. Like we know, and I'm sure like most of the listeners know that like when you're into pop culture, it's not just that you're reading these fluffy headlines and you're just watching these silly shows. It is a study of humanity. I'm sorry. I will just that's what it is. I'm always in anthropologist mode when I'm looking at these things, and that's part of why I have loved Vanderpump Rules is because everyone's basically an antagonist. You know, like I mean, I guess except for Ariana, everyone is like the bad guy, but they're also the good guy, and you go back and forth.
And by the way, that's also leave room for Ariana to someday be the antagonist. Remember, like we can put her on a pedestal because she's amazing, but also leave her room to be a person. Leave her room to make her own mistakes down the line. Like just because we love her now, just remember, like, we all make mistakes. I would hope Ariana, of course, she will treat things way classier, and all the women on that show are way better at this than the men. But remember, she's going to make mistakes too eventually on this show.
Totally. Like when I was growing up, like all I really had was Facebook, and that got hacked and deleted. So now I'm like all the stupid, embarrassing, probably like maybe mean things. Who knows what I was saying on there? Like I'm so glad that won't be unearthed. But like, yeah,
guys, if you could reach out to me, if you have Emily Rose's Facebook post, I would really love to do a deep dive. I think that would be a great TikTok series for me of like deeper into Emily's vault. You're gonna love this one, folks. Yeah,
I actually would love that because all my photos basically from like 15 years of my life are gone because I wasn't smart enough to like upload it or whatever onto I guess I thought Facebook would be forever, but yeah, actually probably for the best because I think some of those things should just stay away more just in terms of like embarrassing myself. I don't think I was all that polarizing of a person, but yeah, everyone is so many things, and like the way that like I think like this is kind of before Scandoval, but I really felt that the way that you react to reality stars, it really says something about you, especially the people that you hate the most. I think there's something in us that we're reacting to that we maybe haven't reconciled with. Kind of, I'm not counting Scandoval because that is just objectively like bad behavior. But I think of like I'm like an astrology person. I do astrology readings on the side, and like I'll joke, I'm like I'm a Sheena, Moon and Sun, and a Kristen Rising. Like that is like. And all their like that's just me being honest, like I'm a all the hot messery of Kristen and all the like many qualities of Sheena that people love to poke on. I'm like, I get it, okay, like I really relate to that when I'm being honest about my best and worst qualities.
Yeah, I wish this is one of those moments that the audience knows, like that I always say, I wish I knew astrology more. I know enough to find that hysterical, and I know enough to understand that. But like it is thank God that I don't go really deep into my astrology, because I feel like that would knock me on my ass and I would not be able to get up, because I would be I would find a way to make that so depressing for myself that I'd be like, this is why, oh my God.
Well, Ryan, if you ever want, I mean, I do birth chart readings, but I would be glad to do one.
That might be a funny episode, actually, or a funny.
Yeah, because I do. Okay, like I'm by no means, I'm not the world expert, but I do pride myself on, I like to do readings in a way that it's not filled with jargon, because I think sometimes like astrologers, like they're so knowledgeable, but it's all kind of like these super technical words. I like to really say it in a way that you can relate it to other things, and especially when people are into pop culture, I'm like, it's like this celebrity, I'm like, like Rihanna's a Pisces with an Aries moon, like that's kind of how I think, but I like to highlight both the positive and the negative, but more just these are possibilities. We all have these possibilities, and we all go to our worst sides sometimes within a time of our lives, a day, an hour. Like, we're all these things. It doesn't mean we're a bad or good person.
What do you think about DJ James Kennedy's girlfriend, Allie, being into astrology as well? Like, that's an interesting relationship, because I feel like finally DJ James Kennedy has somebody that seems like, from all what I can see, is that she seems like a stable, solid person, yet at the same time she's with DJ James Kennedy. Do you have a take on Allie by watching this season at all?
I love how much we're kind of all loving Allie in these moments. Like, it's very unexpected, or not all of us, but I think, okay, one thing that I think is fascinating is that James Kennedy brought on Raquel and Allie. Like, when we first met them, I was like, this is going to be like a three episode arc, and then it'll be gone. Like, it's going to be like a
it's going to be like Satchel.
Yeah. Actually, not Laura Leak. She's iconic, but it'll be like Satchel. Exactly. Where is Satchel, by the way? Like, get him.
I know, guys. Satchel, if you're out there listening, man, I'm so sorry that everybody, like, you didn't ask for that. You were wearing socks with sandals. I thought that was brave. And, you know, nobody needs to, you know, you didn't ask for that.
Justice for Satchel, unless he speaks up and he's actually a horrible person, maybe it's for the best.
Fuck Terry Maloney, Satchel says. Yeah, like, how dare you, Satchel? Yeah.
We mic him up. He's like, you're a fat slut. Like,
yeah, James was right about you, you fat fuck, Ryan. Yeah.
No, but like, so he brought on these women that, like, they seem to me at first these like quiet, timid, young women that are kind of like a bit one-dimensional, like not really much going on. And both of them ended up like breaking the show open. Like Raquel, obviously we know what happened, but Ali was like the first person to bring the smoking gun forward with the whole dancing at the Abbey thing with Tom and Raquel. And I'm like, these women have surprised me so much and how much they've like made an impact. But also, like, you know, they're both young. They're both in, I think, what is Ali 27? Right?
You know what? I think in that range, yeah.
Okay, so for my astrology, girls and gals, and you know, girls, gays, and theys listening realistically. If any,
girls, gays, and what?
Girls, gays, and theys. That tends to be who's into astrology, and you know, whoever else. But
and Ryan Bays
and NRB, who, you know, I don't know. We'll put a pin in that chart reading.
We'll get there. Yeah.
Anyhow, so they're in around the age, it varies a little bit for people, but 27 to 29, 30 is called your Saturn return. And it's basically when you're kind of like
the No Doubt album. Yes.
It's every 27 years. So another time where it hits you is around when you turn 50. So that's like kind of midlife crisis, classical midlife crisis time. And it's basically when like the foundations of kind of like the structure of your life, the structure of your life are shaken to their core and everything gets turned upside down.
This would fit for Ali and Raquel at the same time.
And Ali, I think she's magical. I think she's cosmic. And I also think that she's just looking at this behavior and overlooking all these red flags. And I relate to every single one of those things. I think I was doing the same thing at 27.
Okay. This is what I don't get though. And I think so to a bigger point here that I've been thinking about all weekend is that, and this happens on non-reality shows as well. You have these amazing women, Ariana, maybe Ali, you know, that actually raise the stature in which we see these men. You know, Tom Sandoval, we used to goof on a lot, you know, and Ariana was one of those people that gave him credibility throughout their relationship because we were like, Ariana is so smart. You know, she's beautiful, sure, but she's smart. She's funny. She kind of gets it. She's really on the right side of being able to see everybody as actual people, regardless of sexuality, gender, ethnicity, all of these really amazing things that I would always take a note of. And Allie's the same way. I'm like, wow, she actually is making me kind of rethink DJ James Kennedy, because if she's there, I don't really think she's there just to be a reality TV star. I could be wrong, but it's these women they elevate these men, but it's never usually the same way on the other. And is that women's fatal flaw though? Is sometimes they will look past messes because of a feeling? Is that sometimes one of women's fatal flaws? You would bring the Kardashians into this as well, that it's like the women's weakness and they're giving their stock to raise somebody's stock higher.
Yeah, I mean, like, I come on and a lot of my content is about, like, you know, we're reading between the lines and we're uncovering all these things. And, like, at the end of the day, I'm, like, a super gullible person. And I've been, like, that is
but when... But how are you gullible if you're so smart? That's the thing that I sometimes don't understand. And I'm a similar way, but, like, you know everything about everybody. You see on a reality show, you can pin it a mile away. You see it immediately, Emily.
Well, okay, for my many, many flaws, I think that one positive I can say is I do see the best. I try to see the best in people, and I really I try to bring out the best in people around me. Like, that's important.
The stuff I hate journal, I want to see the worst in people. The stuff I hate journal, let's see the worst in people first and then go to the best.
Yeah, like, I know, it's like, I know, I'm like, it's really a trick. I'm like actually just so gooey, but like, that's really important to me, and I think that's been like really beneficial to me in my friendships. Like, I really put a lot of myself into my friendships, but it's completely screwed me over in terms of just like with, you know, my own personal freaking James Kennedys and like Schwartzes that I've had in my past in my life, and that I've like, you know, I've dated. And it also, I think there's not as many good men as women in the world. I think that's just
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's just the pool is smaller. And I think that we're really taught to accept the bare minimum. And you know, a lot of, so like on my own podcast, like I changed it as of 2023. I revamped it. It's now a rewatch podcast. And a lot of it is like early 2000s reality shows. And as much as I think nothing can shock me, I still get shocked almost every week looking back at like what was totally normal to put on screen and what was seen as like a healthy relationship when it wasn't. And that's what we were raised on. And I don't know, maybe like Gen Z will be better and or maybe it's like Gen Alpha that'll be better, but we were raised to accept men being horrible and women being kind of like complacent and like smiling and not ruffling too many feathers. And we all, I think, fall victim to those dynamics as much as, you know, we can try to resist them.
Yeah. I mean, even in Jersey Shore, I mean, like, think about that. Like, we literally saw Snooki get hit in a bar, like a hit to the face. And like, that was like one of the biggest episodes at the time of just watching a woman get hit, of watching, and even Vanderpump Rules in 10 seasons, even from the beginning to now. I mean, we saw the Stassi slap. We saw, women being like, to this day, we're still being called like women being called whores, all of this things like that.
Well, exactly. And there's intelligence, but then there's just also like your kind of like muscle memory. And Ariana has been really open about being content warning, like being in an abusive relationship and before Tom,
before Sandoval,
previously before Tom, and detailed the abuse, and then her jumping to Tom. Like, now that I look back at Scandoval, it unfortunately, it feels very familiar to me in that, like, you could have this experience that's like, okay, the bar is an absolute hell, but then you kind of like are trying to raise the bar, but really you're still in the basement. You've gone out of hell and you're kind of like, you're still in the basement. The bar is not where it should be in terms of treatment. But if you don't know what that even feels like, it's hard to find it. And especially when you have someone who's super charismatic, super good looking, and like the most extra, like Tom, it's easy to kind of like look past a lot of that. Yeah.
Well, but I, in Tom's defense though, and I don't, it's like, you women, you're not stocking the pins, you're not stocking the batteries, you're not stocking the towels. And it's like, then it's like, dude, and you're not like, listen, the fact that Ariana didn't drop her trowel every time Tom got home from karaoke or from the club with Raquel, the fact that she didn't do these basic things, I'm just like, of course Tom would cheat. We should all forgive him because these are basic. Emily, are you the kind of girl that doesn't buy things and keep them stocked like Ariana? Are you horrible like that?
Batteries are one of those things that whenever you need them, they never really seem to be in the house. Like, you don't really need batteries a lot, so you don't think about it. And then no, but
guys, but from here on out, whenever you can't find a battery, go fucking Ariana, dude. Fuck.
It's ironic. I think a month ago, before all this, I think I bought a pack of batteries at Costco because I was like, every time I need a battery, I never have it because you use them so rarely now. So that actually is something we haven't considered about Tom that I think really lends itself to like, okay, I get it. I partly get it now. Team Tom. No, like
you're Tom's dream woman, man. Like, you tell me you go to Costco and you bought batteries?
I think I should be compensated because I actually listened to the whole Howie Mandel interview.
I did too.
Yeah, it was like, did you find, okay, even with all the highlights and all the clips, it was even worse than you could, they made it out to be.
Sometimes I won't listen to a podcast because I don't want to pollute my own like brain. Not in terms of like that's shit, but I don't want to steal ideas. I don't want to like, and there's so many.
Yeah, I know.
Have my own thing, my own opinion, and but then that one I was reading so many notes from it that I was like, I got to dip into this, and it was wild because I couldn't take my eyes off it. Like I never seen something that on the nose of like, you were saying about promoting your book or something like that. That was such a promotion for Tom Sandoval and the way he viewed things. And I found it like, when it came out later that there was absolutely no pushback because they agreed to that, even though Howie Mandel's daughter is a fan of the show and had all of these questions for Tom and they couldn't do any of it. To hear a man explain it and he still came off so poorly is wild.
Exactly. And like, well, even the daughter, like she was kind of getting shut down by Howie Mandel, by her dad. But like
Yeah.
but as for Tom Pens and Battery Sandoval, like he said his assistant does that. His assistant does that. And also like it's like in what world like does every partnership you split every task equally? That doesn't exist. Every relationship someone does more of one thing, someone does more of another. Like, I mean, not that anyone's buying the whole pens and battery shtick,
I mean, that's what he got. He was so desperate that he was like trying to think of something and he went to pins and batteries. Like, that's wild.
But how funny was it when like Howie Mandel was like, okay, I think I know what's going on. And then he went on this like 5-minute rant and it was just like silence. And even Tom was like, well, that's being a little generous. Like, or I don't know.
Even was like, you know what? Let's just shave the mustache off. You know what? Let's do it. Let's get to the real stuff. We're going to shave this. But it's a perfect example of two men. And you see this with Schwartz and Sandoval, how they beef each other up in their own disturbed way of thinking. They like root each other on of like, dude, I see it. He's a good man. He's a good man that made a mistake. Come on. Yeah. I don't know the show at all, but by what he's saying, it's like two men propping each other up instead of actually what would do service to Tom is like asking some questions of like, why did you feel this way? You know, you realize that's a person and that can completely hurt.
Exactly. And like, you were talking about how you don't want Jax to come back on the show because you don't want him, he really does bring out the worst in everyone. But when the
worst in himself too.
Well, the worst in himself, the worst in the guys, when those three idiots were all like on the show together, like you saw that so much of their friendship was based around them enabling each other's behavior and then holding on to those secrets and being like, when Tom was like, I shouldn't have to ask you to lie for me. Okay. Like that. How did
it should just be assumed. It should just be assumed you'll lie for me. I shouldn't have to ask.
I know. How did we not?
But that's what we see, though. We see, and somebody said they felt bad for Schwartz because he's having to lie for Tom. And I'm like, don't feel bad, you guys, because Sandoval has lied plenty for Schwartz over the years. Like, believe me, that has been done tenfold the other way around. They both scratch each other's dicks. It's not even like, don't feel bad for Schwartz. Like, oh, he's lied plenty for Schwartz. They've lied, and it's so funny that it's just always easier to be angry at a woman, it seems like, than to actually hold men accountable, myself included, folks. And by the way, you said something really fascinating earlier where you were like, the people that you hate and the people that you like really says something a lot about you, maybe like a deeper meaning. And I've thought about that tons, like I think I hero worship Tom because I wanted to be that person that was positive, that pumped everybody up, that like really leaned into my fascinations and never apologized for it. And that's so not me. But then also, I think that's why I'm also so disappointed because he turned out to be, listen, I've never done anything near that bad, but like he turned out to be just normal. He turned out to be less than me. He turned out to be somebody that I can't like. I mean, believe me, I know there's tons of stuff I need to see therapists about just saying all of this stuff. But even DJ James Kennedy this past week with Allie was like, well, I want to hold you to the therapy. He's like, I don't have any trauma. I'm good. And even Allie, all of us were like collectively rolling our eyes. This moment really didn't get talked about a lot because we love DJ James Kennedy right now. But we all know that if he continues on this show, it's going to be his alcoholism will come back to rear its ugly head. He does have past trauma. We all know it. We've all seen it on the show between his mom and his dad, his raising, him taking care of his family, him taking care of everyone, the hurt of Raquel, all of this stuff. And for him to keep saying like, no, I don't have anything to talk about, really. No, I love Imagine Festival. I'm very successful.
Yeah, I'm playing for Cascade. How could I have childhood trauma?
Yeah, do you think somebody opening for Cascade's going to have emotional trauma? No, poo-poo head.
Never gonna happen. No, I don't. Like when she was like, okay, on Monday you're gonna go to therapy. I made your appointment. I was like, no, Allie, I've done that before. Don't do it. It's not worth it.
Also, I love that they made it seem like therapy is so easy to get into, like that the therapy's like, yeah, just call, just go out and find like you can do that with online therapy, but with like in-person therapy, it's not something you can just pop in, like you have to go through a whole intake process. And I was like, yay, so I'm going to dabble on Monday.
Well, and if someone is like kind of making you go, or if you're going, but you're not really ready to dig in, you could throw thousands of dollars at therapy and not get anywhere. Like if you are really not willing to, you could just be talking and kind of glossing over everything. And actually I did that when I first went to therapy when I was younger. Like I kind of thought that a lot of issues weren't actually issues. I was like, why do you guys want to keep talking about this? Like, it's fine. And it actually took a while for me to like be like, oh wait, this is actually why I should be here. This is
okay. So talking about DJ James Kennedy and his past trauma and not wanting to deal with that.
Yeah. And so one thing I'll say, there's been much said about Rachel Levis, and there's going to be a lot more that's said. And I try to like, I love psychoanalysis. I try to like drop into these characters and like try to feel what they're feeling. This is the first time actually on Bravo that I've been scared, like, because I don't understand. I can't drop in to Raquel. And
I don't think you don't, dude, I said, I don't drop in on people, but like, I said the same thing on Friday's episode. I say it every week. I'm like, I can understand everybody there. The only person that I can't get a beat on, every time I think I understand, something throws me. I can't see anything in her eyes. I can't see anything in her reactions. The way, I mean, and that scares me. There's something different there.
I know. And all your Bravo villains, you've got your Jax Taylors, your Erica Jane. Like,
I get like those.
I get what's going on, even if I agree or not. But okay, so one thing that I've been thinking about, so I went to this wedding in Mexico recently, and the priest who is marrying the couple, he actually specializes in exorcisms. He's a Catholic priest, and that's like his thing. And I was fascinated. I was like, you couldn't really ask him about it. They were like, he's just going to change the subject. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going to lead with that as much as I would love to know everything. but apparently he has a whole team. Like, and if you want an exorcism, like, you can't just get one. Like, they evaluate, they rule out other things. It might be a medical thing, might be something else. All I'm saying is I don't really understand how that whole thing works, but I wouldn't mind having him in the same room as Raquel and just getting a temperature.
What's the price point on this guy? Can we GoFundMe this? Can we start a potential exorcism? And I like that you were like, hey, you got to really like, he doesn't just do it willy nilly. He's not in it for the exorcism money. He's got to really kind of see the ins and outs before he agrees to do it. But yeah, I mean, he's like, apparently this is like, I mean, he's the premier like exorcism guy of Latin America. He like flies around to different parts of Latin America, and like and I know this because all of his like relatives who I was like comfortable enough once I had enough drinks, I was like, tell me everything, and it's something that it's very like, it's supposed to be mysterious, and you're supposed to be pretty deep in Catholicism and be a believer before you can even be put in front of him. So and obviously most of what I know is like, most of what I know about this is from movies. I don't know what actually resembles like reality, but I was like, man, I am not ruling anything out at this point because I don't get what's going on. Well, that's what I was going to say. That's why I'm so fascinated. And I don't even think we're still going to get the answers then, is for this reunion. And by the way, even after the reunion, what sucks is that so much has happened since when they filmed the reunion. She's supposedly in a mental health facility. And like, I just still feel like I have no answers. I'm curious what she's going to say at the reunion, but I have a feeling we're still not going to have a lot of answers. And I just want to try to understand it from her side. I mean, by the way, even her side, is she understands it's still going to be wrong because she did something that was very, very evil. But I want to understand the thought process, what was going on in her head when she was having that conversation with Ariana this week, talking about having sex with your partner and your bodies.
That chilled me. And like, that is something where it's like, speaking of the mental health aspect, it's something I'm trying to do less of, is write off people's behavior based on mental health, because I'm like, at this point, it's 2023. I'm going to assume people have mental health struggles unless otherwise specified. So True. Guess who? So does Ariana. So does everyone else have mental health.
It's the people that have admitted it to themselves and the people that haven't, but we all have them.
Yeah, or the people who then take it outward. Like, mine gets turned on myself. I'm like my biggest, I can be my biggest enemy sometimes at my worst. And for Raquel, like, she's turned it completely outwards, and it's like destruction, like on every level. Like, even talking to Terry Maloney, like, you don't talk to someone's parents like that.
I don't care if it's Terry. I don't care if it's anybody. That's what I keep, like, the fact that, like, what do these cameras do to these people that you find it okay to be like, oh my God, what Terry? What Terry? I'm like, that's the most confident that Raquel has said anything this season. Like, she didn't have her like, she's like, what Terry? And it's like, where in what, like they said it in that scene, where were you raised? And it allowed me thinking, like, literally, where were you? Who are the people that raised you? We saw her dad pick her up at the end of last season's reunion because she had split up with DJ James Kennedy. And part of me was like, good, maybe she'll stop doing reality shows and actually heal herself from the relationship with DJ James Kennedy. And it's just gotten worse.
Yeah, I know. Like I've never been violent myself with anyone, but like if someone said something like that to my parent in front of me, like I would see red. Like I would be scared of what would come out. Like I'm like, at that point, Katie, if you pushed one of them into the propane tanks, like I would not have held that against you.
I said that. I mean, I didn't want to, but like I was like, was she kind of trying to get hit? Like, honestly, if you keep, like, she had to be told a million times to go away by the propane tanks.
And when she touched her knee, Schwartz, that's so intimate.
Like she was trying to like get in there, and it reminded me of housewife behavior, but not even nearly as confident. It was so weird.
Yeah, no, it's very bizarre. It's very, very bizarre. We'll see.
Wait, so, real quick about the Tom Sandoval thing in terms of mental health too, is that he was talking about on the Howie Mandel, of like, yeah, dude, I went to a therapist and, we were doing couples counseling, but, it was already a faulty couples counseling because he already knew he wanted to break up with her. So he was just doing that to try to, lay the path for this break, even though Ariana even called him out on it. He was like, no, dude, I want to like work on us. So with that being said, what therapist, in their right mind would say, keep doing the show, go out on tour. Raquel's off in intensive therapy, but you're good, you're fine. And also we see, Tom, people on the show have like pointed out that he said the exact same things during the Dodie relationship, during the Ariana relationship. Somebody had like on Reddit, it was on somebody's post and I reposted it. They said, back in the day, he said, oh, dude, I just think Kristen Doty is so annoyed with me sometimes. Like, he just doesn't even like me. She's just annoyed by my presence. And he said the same thing about Ariana. Like, will Tom ever actually get to the real root of his issues? Because it seems like he's not dealing with whatever is that common theme that keeps popping up in relationships. Even the ones that he considers good, it still comes down to, I'm not getting hero worshipped enough from these women.
Yeah, dude, my very presence annoys you, dude.
Dude, I make lattes for it, dude. I fucking the paper batteries, dude.
Dumpling lattes, dude. Dumpling lattes.
Never take a coffee from Tom. He's gonna hold it against you down the line.
Yeah, and I'm kind of like you were. I try to like actually not listen to too many podcasts on this topic because like I don't want to get it mixed up with my opinions and everything. But I was listening to Danny Pellegrino and he was like, I worked on a cocktail book with the two of them and I can think of many times where she was supportive. And for him to say, I can count on one hand the amount of times in 9 years that she supported me. It's like, well, actually in probably one episode I can count on more than one hand, like the times where she's lifted him up, including this season. So there's that. He's
either lying or he just really doesn't see it. He's either lying or he just like truly can't. It's never enough. It's never enough.
I do believe that people can change, and at the same time, I'm very, very skeptical and think that there's certain people that can't really change in this lifetime. Maybe, I don't know, like I'm like maybe better luck next lifetime, like if that's what you believe in, because Tom Sandoval to like turn around and double down, and that Howie Mandel interview, the amount of times he said, I'm not blaming Ariana, but like
but she wouldn't touch my dick. I mean, yeah.
But even though I was never around and like I probably smelled like Raquel coming out, like whatever. It's like I think
Schwartz never shared his lemon rinds with me and I always smelled like Raquel, so I couldn't touch her.
Yeah, not enough lemon rinds to go around at Schwartz and Sandy's because they weren't well stocked enough, probably something, whatever. but yeah, to see him like doubling down, someone like him, regardless of whatever they think about themselves, they need to disappear for a year at least,
right? For their own personal health and like wellness.
But he's like rock climbing and being like, everything's going great, man. Dude.
Shooting arrows. Like he's preparing for he's like doomsday prepping. Like I'm like, put down the arrow, Tom.
Oh, with friendship bracelets. Yeah. No, he's.
By the way, guys, it is Sunday. This is usually Tom's day to make his friendship bracelets to Kyle Chan's. But I don't think he can because he's out on the road. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's booked and busy on tour playing to full stadiums. I think that was the last post I saw of him. I'm like, what are you, Trump now?
I've ever seen at any, like, it was like another sold out show tonight.
It reminded me of like Trumping like the biggest inauguration ever, like most highest turnout. I was like, dude.
Emily, today's day and age with pop culture, all you need to do is say it. There's going to be 30% that will always believe it. Like, that's what it's like, kind of this weird strategy that people use in marketing now of like, just say it. Like, the majority of us are going to know it's bullshit, but there's going to be that 30% of like, wow, he's like Elton John out there. That's amazing. He's selling out stadiums.
Yeah. Well, like, okay, so I'm never gonna diagnose anyone. I'm gonna make observations on patterns I see or whatever. But I remember I read this book about psychopaths a while ago, and they were talking, but they were
was it Twilight? Yeah.
Or it was like I think it was like Jim. It's called the Psychopath Test. I forget the name of the author, but it was like he was like studying them and talking to psychiatrists and everything. And his whole thing was like, okay, it's 1% of the population just about who have, I think it's called like something personality. I'm just butchering this whole thing. Basically, his point was, if you are a psychopath, if something bad happens, like a tragedy, most people are going to look and go, oh my God, like car crash. Oh my God. Yeah. A psychopath is going to be studying other people and looking at their reactions and like kind of trying to like replicate it. And
that feels like Raquel a little bit from what we see. She's always like staring and like
a little
being
bit
told how to feel.
A bit. And like, there's something about everything that we've seen Raquel and Tom do in the wake of this that just, it feels very like performative, or like, this is what I think I should say now. And I think everyone would like to see me like doing friendship bracelets or like making a post about mental health from Raquel. Like, and it's like, okay, but none of it feels genuine and everyone's seeing through it.
It's so on the nose that it's like, even that's not even well done. Like, Jax like used to be able to pull that shit off pretty well. Like, you'd be like, I'm an idiot, I'm a work in progress. And you'd kind of like each season at the reunion, you'd be like, you know what? He is a work in progress. You know what? Like, I think, and all the friends kept talking. I would always be like, why are they still friends with Jax? But like, he was able to get in there and be able to be like, no, he's down on his luck. He's good.
Although Jax, since he's been off the show, is kind of like a Leave It to Beaver vibe, like that. And the whole
he's dad vibes. He's dad jokes, dad vibes.
But it's just, there's something, all I care about, I'm just mowing the lawn. I'm like, okay, I don't.
He's Eddie Haskell vibes.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you're talking about missing things. Like, like I said, I don't listen to podcasts really. But I was on Sarah Galley's podcast on Friday, I think, and she pointed out something that this is where it's like, oh shit, I completely missed this, was that scene with Terry Maloney and Katie and Raquel, is that, Schwartz is there hiding behind plants, which is such a wussy move, like no backbone, blah, blah, blah. We've seen it time and time again. Yeah, like Luann, but like standing up, like laughing in the bushes, but he's like standing up with his hands in his mouth and lemon rinds on his arms. And the thing that's different is, he there, like right before that, he said, oh, I just wish I was with family right now. I just want to, and I watched it and goes, you know what I do? Like, we all just want to be kids again and go back to our families. And I kind of, Sarah pointed this out, I think, that I was like, wait, his family's right there. Terry Maloney. That's part of his family. Go be with your family, Tom. Go stick up for your family. You're not with Katie anymore, but you're still her family. You want to work on this friendship. Your family is there. Like, you instead chose to go hide behind a bush and stand up for Tom, a liar. And Tom was chewing Terry Maloney's ass out, even in things that we didn't get to see that got cut out. He didn't go stand up for his family, Terry Maloney, when Sandoval was like, dude, why are you butting in, dude? To like Terry Maloney. Like, that was the weakest, and I'm
he's standing up for Raquel. He's laughing in Katie's face with Raquel having a little giggle,
yelling at his mother-in-law. That was dark.
I know. No, I know. That's the thing. Like, I'm so engaged, but I'm also so darked out by all of this, and it's like.
But Emily, I get we all make those, not to this extent and on camera, but I mean, we all may have these choices in life, and you're lucky if you hit 8 out of 10 a day in the right way. Like, we all sometimes really handle things poorly. Like and sometimes I'm not even aware in the moment that I'm handling something poorly, but it is interesting when you see these really big examples and there's not self-awareness on it at all. In fact, they're celebrated. They get a paycheck. They get all of the, it's the most attention they've ever gotten since the, since season 3 or season 4, when it was at its height. They're back on top. Really quick before we switch to Taylor Swift, though, I do want to give you, because the Stuff I Hate journal, which, I know this is going to sound, you can buy this, but what I was thinking about is that like this should be volume 1, because this is ripe for more volumes. In fact, what I want to pitch to you right now is the Stuff I Hate journal Vanderpump Rules edition. as the stuff I hate about Jax. Like, what don't I want to emulate about these men? What I like? You could do an entire second volume just Vanderpump Rules, and I would give that out to everybody. Would you ever consider doing a second volume of this?
That'd
or
be
like
amazing.
different
like
kinds of
like
volume?
a Bravo version, or like a
and then you could do like a Taylor Swift version. You could do you could do these versions of like for real true fans, because you said you have a couple Easter eggs in here already for fans, and it's like this great one already for just people to like, but for specific fan groups, the Stuff I Hate journal, I think there's so much play in that would be so amazing to actually get your own feelings about these characters and situations down on paper and to make bigger points about our own lives.
I love that so much. Like, cause when I was first talking to the publishers about this, they're like, we want 160 prompts. And I was like, oh, I think that, I don't know how I'm actually going to come up with 160 prompts, but I just started, getting into hateful, bitter.
Yeah, by the way, it was done within an hour. Yeah.
yeah. I tapped into my inner cynic, which is not so hard to do. And like, it just kind of did kind of write itself in a way. Like it just, I don't know if you feel this way about like when you're doing memes, but like not to be all like so deep about it, but it does feel a bit channeled sometimes where it just kind of, it like drops.
By the way, you're Emily, this is going to sound so douchebaggery, but like the best memes will come just right in that moment. You don't even know why you don't even know what your brain thought it. You don't even like, sometimes you can tell where I'm like, okay, this to this, but sometimes the best ones just come, and it sounds so geek, it's like, because you hear like McCartney talking about writing a Beatles song, and that's one thing, writing Yesterday. But like when you're doing a meme, but it is those things that you're proud of. You're like, wow, I don't even know how my brain came up with that.
I mean, no, I literally, I feel assumed. I don't really talk about this to people because I don't want to sound like a total goofball, but like, I'll be like falling asleep and I'll have a full TikTok, like a full 3-minute thing with all the photos I want to use, the whole script written out, all these different jokes that just like comes to me and I need to write it down. Like, as silly as it may sound, that is a big form of artistic expression for me. That's been a really nice release to have. Like, it's been a really nice outlet.
And it is interesting, the artistic process, if you want to call it that, which I'm not going to call it that, but it is in the moment too. And if you don't do it sometimes in that moment, you'll then think about it the next day and it doesn't hit you in nearly the same way it did in that moment. And it's always a lesson for me to make sure you act on it immediately. Sometimes don't let it just, because you'll either forget or it won't nearly have what it had for you in that initial moment of like clarity. It's like really weird. Like, I mean, it is.
No, there's sometimes you actually, because you are really good with Instagram format. I'm trying to get more into it.
Like for some reason I can do that, but I can't do the TikTok format.
I have the opposite kind of, but I'll see some of your, I'm like, this was a channel. This just like, this wasn't inspired me. But speaking of, we were going to talk about Taylor Swift and
yes, that's what I was kind of like.
Yeah. So actually I made this post about it and I was kind of shaky. I was like, normally my page is about like jokes and escapism, but this is like a really like affecting me. Like it's really kind of like ruining my day. And I'm just going to put it out there. Even if I get a mountain of hate, like I just feel the need to write a stream of consciousness criticizing Taylor Swift and just hit post. And it actually got a really strong positive reaction that I was not expecting.
And you were criticizing Taylor Swift's set list for the Eras tour, correct?
I was saying that she was not putting enough effort in. The show was cut short.
She wasn't hitting as many Evermore songs. We needed more.
3 hours. It could be why is it not like a Grateful Dead, like 5-hour, jam?
No. Wait. When's Taylor Swift's jam period going to start? Come on.
Yeah.
By the way, she is so young that I could legitimately see her having a jam band in her 50s, like just like feeling the music and of like, oh my God, that was an epic 30-minute version of like Anti-Hero. Wow.
Well, I've always joked that I don't think I will like joke, but not. I don't think Taylor Swift could do psychedelics. She likes to be in control, but I would love to see that.
Could you imagine? I mean, by the way, Taylor Swift is the only person that could do psychedelics and then still come at him and go, it turns out I am God. Like, oh my God. Like I was talking to the higher power and it was me. And that was just, and it confirmed everything I felt about myself. No, we were talking about, and we talked about this on the show briefly in terms of a relationship or the burgeoning relationship of, of course, she split with Joe Alwyn, her new relationship with Matty Healy, the lead singer of the 1975. And I made a meme this week I said DJ James Kennedy is the reality show version of Matty Healy. And what I meant by that, a lot of people like me, like, he's not a Nazi, he's not this, da da da. And listen, I have not studied Matty Healy and everything that he said. I've seen some of the things he said on stage as a bit. I've seen some, but what I was saying is that also to remind people, DJ James Kennedy has said some gnarly things, you know, fat phobic, of course, but he said some gnarly things. But also he's very charming and very funny. And Matty Healy can be very charming and very funny. But I wanted to talk to you because you have some actual facts about Matty Healy. Are you in support of this relationship on its face?
No, I'm not. And like, just, you know, to speak of the whole, like, James Kennedy's like, I got what you're saying, because I've seen his shows. They look so fun, but he literally called Raquel's mom fat when they were dating. Like, he will not, there was no bounds.
He won't mince words. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, we're speaking of not talking to someone's parents in a certain way. Like, there was just, no bounds for him. And so Matt Healy, like, lead singer of 1975. At this point, it's been confirmed in that they've been seen out in public, him and Taylor Swift holding hands. They've been seen driving together. Taylor Swift is not seen unless she wants to be seen, and we know that from, I mean, just her whole vibe. But like the Reputation era, which she wasn't seen for a year, like everything she does is purposeful. Anyone who's like studied her for even a minute knows.
And do you love that about her?
Of course, because it's like, well, just from a marketing standpoint, it's like, in order to understand her current piece of work, you need to consume the next piece. It's like a brilliant puzzle. Like, and I like observing that. And like, I have posted so much content celebrating her, also critiquing. That's just, I mean, and every time I do, that's like,
the great thing about being an artist is that people can critique. Like, it is, once it's out there in the public, it is ours to a degree. And that's what I want to say about even reality shows. When people are like, you don't like my favorite character, F you, it's okay, you guys. Like, we can all disagree on these things. We can consume it and then talk about it and have bigger conversations.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know, if you know, I'm not going to be a famous person, but if I was, I would hope the same thing, that people would not put me on a pedestal. But whenever I do, like, you know, the Swifties are like very crazy. They'll be like, you're not a real Swiftie. Because I am a fan. I have tickets to her tour later this summer. Like, I'm going to be. I
just need one to LA, folks. I say it every episode. I just need one to LA. I can't afford $1,200.
I'm actually going to LA. I'm going with Lauren at the Zen.
Oh, Zen Blonde. Yeah.
Hey,
Lauren, where are you, Lauren? I know you. You should have invited me to that thing. Come on.
You should have DM'd her at the right time. No, I don't know. You never know. Like, actually, I did have a listener email me at some point. Now it's kind of been snatched up, but you never know. I'm sure there's.
You never know. You never know. Yeah,
keep putting it out there. Never stopping or whatever. Okay, but so yeah, I have many deep dive episodes I've done on, like, I have a whole Kaylor series. I have a Swift Grown series of like her past alleged relationships and celebrating her music, whatever. I am just like, in this moment, I'm so disappointed in her, and I'm also disappointed in myself, because her being seen with Matt and them making such public displays of whatever relationship this is right now, I'm like, this is actually in line with some of her past behavior. So I'll explain that a bit more. Like, Taylor, a big part of her image since the Lover era has been like activism and feminism, and also fighting for gay rights. Like, it was the whole theme of the Miss Americana documentary. She literally said, like, what makes me is gay pride. And like,
where did that go at the Nashville show?
Well, I mean, I believe in a lot of causes.
You guys, I love Taylor Swift. Believe me, but it is interesting to talk about.
Me too. I also have like a multi-part like analysis of Midnights and how brilliant it is. Like, whatever. I think we're all mature people. When those people come for me and they're like, you're not a real Swiftie, I'm like, I am a grown up. I don't need to be part of any fandom. I just enjoy music, and like, it's okay. But you know, she put, you know, her music video, You Need to Calm Down, full of drag queens and gay icons. The third song of Eras is You Need to Calm Down. The whole stadium is lit up in rainbow colors. And like, so it's supposed to be like this celebration. But then we see in Florida and Nashville, you know, we've all, like, you don't have to be super tapped into the news to see that there's drag bans, you know, in Florida, like extreme, like anti-trans, like bathroom bills. And a lot of stars have spoken out against it, which I'm really happy to see. Lizzo, Ariana Grande, LeBron James, Beyonce. Actually, I saw photos
Gender
of
neutral bathrooms.
yeah, Beyonce. Like, and so she played both those places and said nothing. Okay, and then now seen with Matt, and I'm gonna go through some of the things he said. It's a big content warning because it's
Because that was the thing I wanted to understand why people have, like, I'm not aware of everything that this man has said, but I did, just from the impression, like, I've listened to their albums, and some I think are derivative of certain other artists, but they're fun and they're poppy, and I'm not saying that in a mean way. I actually enjoy their music, but I have noticed he's now at every show, and we always see these TikToks of him watching the show, and he seems really into it. And I think he seems really into the show and Taylor, but he also, I think, seems really into being there around all of this. I think he really wants to be seen, and that's just a vibe I get from studying pop culture. I'm not sure if I'm even correct or not. It's just a vibe I get. So tell us some of the things that he said.
Well, yeah, it's wild that like he's been at all the shows, and like, I mean, I think Joe showed up to like one show with his little sour face, and we had like
Poor
three
Joe,
blurry
man. Poor Joe.
we had like 3 blurry photos of them throughout their 7 years, like their 6 years.
So by the way, they never took an official photo in their 7 years of relationship.
No. So that 6, yeah, whatever. So and so the fact that now she's being seen out and about, it's a very bizarre. But okay, I'm just going to go through a couple things that are actually just from the past couple years, because if anyone wants to say, oh, he was younger, like this is truly within this year and the past like 2 or 3 years of things he's done. Or maybe I'll say from now to past 5 years. I don't know, old enough to know better. Like, anyway.
How old is Taylor Swift?
Taylor Swift is 33, I believe.
Oh, perfect. We're the same age. Matty Healy age. Oh, he's 34 years old.
Okay, yeah. So he's 34. So just within this year, like, and all these things that I'm going to say, he's chalked up to he's either disregarded it or he said it's a joke. It
was a bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit. All right. Well, just this year, and like, I don't know if anyone is like up to date on this and doesn't want to hear, you can skip ahead, but he did the Nazi salute on stage. He went on Adam Friedland's podcast and he made a slew of like racist and fatphobic jokes about
They
Ice
pulled
Spice.
that episode. Okay? Adam Friedland, you guys, he used to be part of Come Town, the podcast, which was like the male hand in hand with Red Scare sometimes. But if you're not aware, he has the Adam Friedland show now, and I think they pulled that episode. But he said a lot of troubling things, making fun of Ice Spice, Asians, a lot of really wild things.
Yeah, and later in the month after he did the Nazi salute, he also posted on his Instagram this Wikipedia page called A List of Jews, and it's just a list of Jewish people, which is like very reminiscent of like the Nazis posting or collecting lists of Jewish people. Like that, the same month that he did this like quote unquote joke Nazi salute, this was while Kanye, like the joke was, haha, I'm supporting Kanye, cool Kanye. There was a real genuine rise in anti-Semitic violence during this time. So where's the punchline here? Like the punchline is like,
with the Nazi salute, Emily, that was in a show, and just so like, and it was actually fully meant to be a Nazi salute, and it wasn't somebody he was like dancing with his arms up. Like I'm not trying to push back. I'm trying to like understand that like he was purposely trying to do a Nazi salute.
This was back in January, and it's because he had this lyric that was like, cool Kanye. And that was before Kanye like did his whole thing. This was just part of the song. And so when Kanye was going off the rails, getting dropped by everyone, he said, cool Kanye, and did the Nazi salute. And you can pull up, anyone can pull up a photo of this. It's not like a slightly bent arm. It's like a very clear, and he said it was a joke. Well, then also paired with the fact of just no context, no statement, just posting list of Jews on his Instagram. And so just a couple more things just from the past few years. So when George Floyd, during George Floyd's death, his response to that was posting like promoting his song from 2 years before. He was like, this is so sad. Like, I think we can all like get into this song, like, which really captures like the spirit of whatever. He has made several anti-Muslim jokes and equated being a Muslim to being in ISIS and to being an extremist. He said the R slur many times. He said the F slur many times. And he actually, there's a clip where he's making these sexist comments towards women interviewing him, where he said, this is a direct quote, "Those are some heavy questions for girls dressed like you." And these women are dressed in business casual, like they're dressed in how you would dress just to go to work. You know, there's nothing like, and it doesn't matter what they're fucking wearing, because, you know, but to say girls, heavy questions for girls dressed like you. Just quickly, a few more. He followed Kyle Rittenhouse on Instagram, and followed Andrew Tate.
Kyle Rittenhouse
and Andrew Tate. And when
now he's just cheesy.
Yeah,
Andrew Tate, that's just cheesy. Kyle Rittenhouse is one thing, but Andrew Tate is so cheesy. That's embarrassing.
It's so embarrassing. And like, when questioned for it, like he said, either "I'm not sorry" many times. He's also talked about like how, okay, the other crazy thing. So there was one quote where he up on stage, he's like, "I'm kind of sorry if I offended you guys." And then he went on this rant about cancel culture. And it's like, what a show to be talking about cancel culture and being silenced while you're up on stage playing for a crowd of adoring fans. Like, come on. Like,
but also, I find it very interesting too, his music is not that complicated. Like, it's very simple pop, lovey-dovey, kind of like, I love, you know, it's not, I mean, it's good, but it's not, you know, deep. It's not, you're not dealing with Radiohead here, you know?
No. And like, if you just kept a stupid mouth shut and made these jokes like in private, we wouldn't know. Like, you don't have to, no one is demanding every artist to speak on every topic, or if they are, no one is required to, because that's the other thing. So when I talk about these types of things with Taylor Swift, people will argue back, well, she's not obligated to be this political activist. Well, she certainly profited off of it with Miss Americana, with Lover, with
so at times she has been that. I remember that scene in Miss Americana where she's pushing up against her dad, saying like, "Listen, no, I believe this. I'm sorry. This is what I'm doing." And I mean, I guess we can only theorize of why she's not actually, especially when you do a show in Nashville with what Nashville is going through right now with the drag. But like, you know, why are you being quiet at this moment? Has it gotten too big for her and too big of an audience?
But it's not, well, I mean, she's bold enough to light up the whole stage in rainbow for every show, and
she's still doing that, right?
She's still doing that. She's still saying you need to calm down for a very profitable show. And if you look at situations where she has been bold enough to really speak out, she is very, very quick to react when people make a joke that's about her. So I don't know if you remember, like, this was a couple years ago, the show Ginny in Georgia. So they made a joke.
The Netflix show, right? Yeah.
Yeah. They made a joke. You go through men faster than Taylor Swift. Okay. That was the joke. So I have pulled up her tweet from that time. "Hey, Ginny in Georgia, 2010 called and it wants its lazy, deeply sexist joke back. How about we stop degrading hardworking women by defining this horse shit as funny? Also, at Netflix, after Miss Americana, this outfit doesn't look cute on you. Happy Women's History Month, I guess. Heartbreak emoji." Wow. So, and like, you know, and like, there's been like a lot of times like that where people have said like, "Oh, you don't write," she was joking about her not writing her own lyrics, and she'll come out and be really critical, and she's allowed to defend herself, and she's allowed to also speak or not speak on political issues, but it's very convenient when she does speak up, and it seems to be when it's things that are directly affecting her. And it's just, and I'm saying this as someone who I'm holding on to my Eras ticket. And I'm, you know, like, I'm upset right now. I contain many truths, and I'm not going to stop forever listening to her music, but it's disappointing. And the last point I'll bring up is like, just in her favor in this way, I'll also say like, the things that men get canceled for, quote unquote, canceled for or criticized for, are not the same thing that women get criticized for. So that's also just like another piece of this big puzzle.
What would it take for Taylor to get you upset enough to give me your Eras ticket? No. Actually, what I want to say is that Matty Healy does, like, by the way, he's somebody that is able to, like you said, say all of these things. He is not canceled. But I guess then we could theorize, though, when you put these two forces together, because Matty, I feel like a lot of people have dismissed, like, oh, he's just crazy. He's just trying to get people's goat, blah, 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 even though it's really damaging things and opinions that he's saying. But when it comes to Taylor, who in a lot of senses, even, you know, before what you said, is, you know, considered this ray of positivity in a lot of times. Like a lot of young women and men look towards somebody like Taylor Swift to show how to behave and like open up your mind to all of these different things. So what then with, and it seems like it seems like not only she profits it, but it seems like she truly loves being in that driver's seat, of her career. What would then possess? And by the way, isn't Jack Antonoff a Jewish man? Because wasn't that the true thing that he put them together?
I mean, yeah, but like, I don't know. It's like, I think about, I don't know what's all going on because it's not like Jack Antonoff is like, he's not on the street. Like, it's, I'm sure his bills are paid and he's doing very well for himself. But at the same time, like, you think about it in a workplace setting, like these things, I'm Jewish and because I don't quote unquote look Jewish, which is what people have told me my whole life, like people have made anti-Semitic jokes like in front of me, not realizing like I'm Jewish. And like when this happens, like in a workplace setting, or it's happened before in a professional setting, and I've just like frozen and not been proud of basically not knowing what to do in that moment, because I'm like, well, I am at the bottom rung of the ladder right now, and I don't want to like stick my neck out, but I do want to say something. But like, how I'm also like, I am trying to keep my job. So Jack Antonoff is a friend of Taylor Swift and a collaborator. And I don't know. I don't know.
Also a collaborator to so many women. So my thing is, what piece of information do we not know? Like, what would possess then somebody like Taylor? Is it just like, and by the way, she's dated a slew of men, which is amazing. There's nothing. I mean, like, by the way, there's nothing wrong. Date as many people as you want. She always seems like, that's not the issue here at all. But I would wonder, with the responsibilities that she has, I mean, the heart wants what the heart wants. But when you are actually actively pushing against an agenda that you've actually, kind of cultivated these amazing positive messages for everyone, even though she's not doing certain things on this tour that we would hope she would do, what is that cost risk conversation? I mean, that's the thing I'm just curious. I'm wondering, because it seems like he's really pushing for this relationship. He really wants this relationship. It feels like he's there every night now.
I know. I don't get it. And I'm like, Tree Pain, what are you thinking? Where are you right now? Are you supporting, like, what is going on? And I think like, yeah, like the whole dating a lot of people, that's so funny because like I think most people have like their college year phase, or like people date around when you're younger, but like the fact that her like phase was with a bunch of A-listers, I'd be like, hell yeah, like look at the losers you were dating when you were 19. Like I was, but I don't know what any of them are thinking, and I'm just like,
she's thinking something. That's what I want. Like, she's thinking something. So how do we all tell ourselves these things to be able to like face certain situations in our lives? So what is she telling herself that makes it okay to actually be with somebody that has said all of these things? So is it as simple as, well, he told me he's joking about it all and he likes to get the goat and it's like performance art? And is that a good enough excuse for Taylor?
Well, this is like, I mean, there's like the really classic like criticism of white lady feminism is that it's really like about rallying behind a cause that only affects you, yourself, like as a white lady, spoken as white lady myself, like saying like, oh, I believe in equality is not enough, because actually not all like who equal to who, a white man or like a black man, like who are you talking about that you want to be equal to? Because that's actually not the same if you're putting race and religion into all of that. And so that is it, like it being sort of self-serving is it at its worst version. And so I don't know, like that seems to be from her actions what she is supporting.
It's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. I mean, but by the way, every relationship that Taylor is in, like, it seems very interesting how it plays out. But this is a very interesting person at a very interesting time. And eventually she is, and the other person I want to bring up in this, because I mentioned this last week in terms of somebody that I've always looked up to, even though I'm way older than her, is Phoebe Bridgers. Phoebe Bridgers loves Matty Healy, and Phoebe Bridgers has been very outspoken. If you've like looking at like just into men like Eric Clapton, if you look at some of the things Eric Clapton, the guitarist, and a lot of people consider him a genius, what he has said some wild things about other races over the years, and really took a stance against Eric Clapton, took a stance against all of these things. But I'm like, well, listen, Phoebe, this is very interesting. You didn't know Eric Clapton, you know Matty, and he's saying similar things that Eric Clapton used to say in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. Where is that the heat that you gave to Eric on Matty? Like, and I look up to Phoebe, and she's a really interesting position because she seems to be the voice of a lot of younger females right now with that and her other band Boy Genius. I'm curious even how she thinks about it.
I know, and like, and I'm saying this, like, I think of fame as like the bigger of a star you are, like the more your like positive and negative qualities get amplified. I think on like either in the public or just, I think it just enhances everything. So as an A-lister, like we're scrutinizing all these different things that we wouldn't be scrutinizing for like some indie obscure band that we don't know too much about, but we just love their albums. And like I made this point kind of at the end of my little rant. It's sort of messy, but the reason, like, as much as I'm coming in so hard against her, like I think about like the idiot loser parade of people that I dated.
Like, exactly. Well, I mean, you said it a couple times during this too, of like, even in terms of, is that like, you know, there are times in our lives where you said, I didn't speak up because I was at the lower end of the totem pole. Like, who knows, even these people, you think they're all celebrities, they're still a totem pole. They're still well, I don't know if I want to speak up. I'm still just trying to, you know, like these people are still people and they have the same thoughts and feelings we do, just their bills are able to be paid a little easier than ours.
Yeah. And like, you know, and I said it in a professional setting. It's also happened. I remember like, actually, this was a long time ago, but meeting an ex-boyfriend's like family for the first time, and the dad like made a joke about like, oh, cheap as like Jews, and I was just like, like, you know, and I froze, like, and I'm not proud of that, but like I've had many other times in my life of speaking up. Like I'm saying this because I know it's not flattering to myself, but this is just the reality that we're imperfect. And so is Taylor Swift, so is Phoebe Bridgers. I'm disappointed, but I'm also like, well, yeah, I truly don't know the full story. I don't know how they're justifying it to themselves, but I also like, I think about what we hold men up for, like what really cancels a man. Literally, it's like SA, like, you know, it's like truly like physically harming someone. And for Taylor Swift, it's like, yeah, it is really shitty that this is who she's like publicly dating. I don't know. Like
it's interesting to talk about, but it is one of those things that we don't have those answers. We don't have all of the information. Taylor, though, being Taylor, I'm sure at some point we'll have to talk about this because she is Taylor. And I'm very interested for that time period. But in terms of pop culture, I mean, this is just another fascinating era, but we don't want to kind of make light of it in that sense because you don't want to normalize these things. You want to be able to like pretty quickly go, that's really not right. We've like come a long way since World War II. We've come a long way in our fights for equality, and it's not even nearly where we should be, but we've come a long way. So you don't want to start normalizing these things in this very innocent way because you're just like, it's just music, but it's so much more than that. Like, listen, I dedicate my entire life now to pop culture. So do you. So these things actually matter, and they hold a really, I mean, even bring it back to Vanderpump Rules. We were talking about what we learn, what the behaviors we learn, how we prop up men, how women are, usually they have to take the brunt of their men's actions. And these things kind of just go across the board. And that's why you've got to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know, a lot of the moments I talked about where I froze up, like that was like in my early 20s. That was when I was a lot younger. My voice was like much smaller in every sense. And now that's not how I live now. I mean, but now it's interesting because I, you know, anytime I even just make content, this is more on TikTok than anything, but if I'll make a content like about the holidays, like, because, you know, my holidays, Jewish holidays, I'll always get at least one or a few anti-Semitic comments. And so that's something that I'm more keenly aware of because that's my experience. I am certainly like, of all the marginalized groups that Matty Healy has like said horrible things about, like I don't know how hard I can't imagine like their experience and what that must be like, but it's like he is a man who it is just a joke to him, and he's not going to be at the receiving end of like this rise in attacks and violence.
I mean, yeah, and I know you guys know this, but the reason though why we do get so angry, I think, immediately, and why you want to squash it out immediately, especially with anti-Semitism, because there's direct proof of what happened last time when we didn't. You say, oh, that's crazy, nothing's going to happen. There is a direct piece of history that is exactly what happens when you don't squash these things out. So we also have a tendency as humans to never learn. Like we were talking about Vanderpump Rules. We have 10 seasons of behavior and we still follow, these men still fall into the same mistakes. We've got to remind ourselves every day of why this is not well, because we can get back to that spot. We really can. People say, but like, think of the last 5 years, how many places we were at that we never thought we would be at. So you really do got to, and it's not like a freedom of speech thing, like, but it's like a real quick, like, don't hate thing. It's really easy to separate for me.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you bringing that up because I don't want to take it there necessarily because
I'm taking it there. I'm not, I'm taking it, and the audience knows they're,
but that's where my mind goes. Okay. Because like that's how I was raised. And because of that, I've been in a lot of therapy because that was kind of compounded in my mind from a very young age of this happened to my family. That's why we live in Montreal, Canada, is because my great grandmother, like my family, like again, content warning, my family was my ancestors were killed not in the camps, but before that in the waves of violence, like it's called the pogroms, that were just people in the streets. It was just vandalism and killing people, like just mobs basically. And I was always taught like that my great grandmother, my grandmother didn't think that this was going to happen to them. They were a very comfortable upper middle class family and had to flee and started over with nothing in Canada. And so that is like the history that it was like instilled in me from a very young age. And any little sign of anything, like, my family would get like react so strongly. I get why. Like there's a lot of things that you need to hold on to. Also some things that like maybe we need to not be so vigilant, and like it's led to a lot of anxiety and stomach problems for all of us, but neither here nor there. Like it's never far from my mind because that was how I was raised. And so like I see things like that and I'm like, it's not a joke, Matty Healy, like it's a joke to
it's
you.
like that's why it's like not even funny in a performance art kind of way. It's not fun, and that's why, and I've told the audience this before, it's like that's why I don't use Kanye mashups anymore. I don't use like, and by the way, you saw the most recent Kanye paparazzi photo in LA, it's like Kanye looks like he's doing well, guys. Yeah, he was just joking around. Like, no, there's a disturbed element there that if we, you can come down on me all you want, but like try to consider where he's actually going through, what he's actually dealing with. And, just to bring it back to mental health as well. But like, yeah, I'm not going to stand for that. What's the purpose of even having a voice if you're not actually going to say, like, the only reason I can be as silly as I am is if everything's going to be okay. If the world falls apart, we can't really joke anymore. It's not going to be the same. We can't then just focus on reality television when there is, it can get bad real quick.
Yeah, and like I mentioned before in our Vanderpump Rules conversation that I've stopped recently trying to use mental health as an excuse so much for like writing off people's behavior. It was Kanye that his whole, like the last time we really heard from him, that's when I was like, okay, enough. Like I give people the benefit of the doubt in way too many situations because of mental health. All right, well then that doesn't give all of us a pass. If everyone with mental health issues acted on every little thought and every little, like, turning their frustrations out towards the world, the world would blow up. Like, so most of us are trying to keep our shit together, at least in how we treat each other on a basic level. So if you can't do that, like, I don't care. Like, I don't care what you're struggling with. You have to be somewhat decent to live in a society.
Yeah, that's not a freedom of speech issue for me. And I'm sorry if it is for you guys, but it's not for me. And I say that lightly because I know a lot of you guys are exactly on the same page. But
that's some cuckoo American stuff to me. Honestly, I don't talk about this too much because most of my listeners and people who watch are American. And so I'm very like, I'm kind of like an observer in American culture, but like in Canada, like we don't have freedom of speech. We have like very strong laws against hate speech. And like, it's very, I don't know, I think if it's more of a European kind of system where like there's never been a premise of you can say whatever you want to say. And that's Canadian. It's like, no, if you say like hateful things, that is like,
there's a certain thing that like which I hope we can get back, just some basic manners too. Like we were talking about with Raquel and Terry Maloney. Raquel like saying these like, oh God, like just have some basic manners, you know? Like, would you actually go and just say something like, I hate this religion or I hate this? Like, why would you ever, when you can actually then take that space to talk about all the things that you love? You know, like hate your Vanderpump Rules characters. Talk about these characters. Really throw your passion into that. But if you're going to hate somebody's sexuality, somebody's race, somebody's ethnicity, you are wasting your life. You are not fighting for something noble. You are not fighting for, and you're not going to end up being successful in the long run. And your time has passed. I mean, that's not a threat either, but it's just like, let people move on. I don't know. And it's like, I say that with a lot of love for everybody involved. And I know it's scary for some people to not understand where people sometimes come from, but you got to make the effort to try to understand. You know, if you believe that we're all created from one you got to try to understand everybody. Even the people that I dislike, I'm trying to understand what Matty Healy was saying. I was the guy that watched all 3 nights of Kanye on Tucker Carlson just so I could try to see and I was able to make a real quick assessment of what was actually going on. And it was very easy for me at that point to turn off and say, cool, man. I wish you well. I hope you really are. You seem wealthy enough to be able to get the best people on your case. And it doesn't seem like he's doing that, but I really wish the best for him. And I've had so many amazing moments with Kanye West in my pop culture history. And I'm sad to see that go, but I'm so happy that I had those moments. And it's a real easy decision for me, you know?
Yeah, my Yeezy slides were my comfiest sandals, and I have a history with his music, as we all do. It was really that's really unfortunate. And also, like, with my comments on free speech, is like there's a lot of really, really interesting debates to be had about slippery slopes and like gray areas and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, like, it's 2023, up on a stage, you should not be allowed to incite violence against a certain race. You shouldn't be allowed to do a Hitler salute. Like, that's pretty not a gray area for me. Yes. And
I mean, listen, like, Tom Sandoval has the freedom to go up on the stage and dance like a kook, like he's like out there with his shirt off, but he has the freedom to do that. And by the way, that's it. That's right there. But even Tom Sandoval, I think, knows not to do some of the things that Matty and Kanye are doing. My God, yeah. I say that now. Imagine next week, Tom Sandoval starts inciting violence at his shows. He's like, I'll tell you something about women, dude. Whores that don't get batteries and pins, and they're disgusting. Yeah.
Yeah. Tom Sandoval has every right to play Stacey's mom, which is not funny and hasn't been funny for 20 years. But like, he has a right. I will give him that. You know what? I fully support his right.
And we have the right to make fun of that. And that's a fun conversation to have. Also a fun book journal to have one more time is the Stuff I Hate journal, you guys, which I really am so excited. I really think you should keep doing these, volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, but this one is out here right now. And I'm telling you, this is the perfect gift. I'm going to link to it in the stories, and I'll link it once again on my Instagram when this comes out, but this is like an easy no-brainer purchase. The person that you buy it for, even if it's yourself, you're going to love it. And it's not even supporting somebody. I think you get in exchange for your money, you get a really cool good. You get a good piece of merchandise here that you'll actually love. Start conversations. I really, truly think this is going to be a great gift for birthdays, holidays, anything. But Emily Rose, what's coming up next for you? Also, the podcast, It's Become a Whole Thing. Go check that out as well. But what else are you doing and up to?
Sleeping. I'm very tired. But yeah, just promoting the book, which you've done like amazing job. Thank you so much. And so basically on my podcast, just every week, if you haven't heard of it, we do the best and the worst of unscripted shows. But that includes, when I say unscripted, I mean like we'll do vintage Jersey Shore, but we've also done like 19 Kids and Counting, which is a very bleak episode of going into like the Duggars history. We did Brooke Shields documentary, Pretty Baby. Like, we do a mix of very silly, funny, and very like serious kind of like zeitgeisty documentaries. So yeah.
There's a docu-series coming out about the Duggars by the same people who did the Lulu Row documentary.
Oh my god, the Lewber documentary was so good.
Lulu Rich, I think it was called.
Or
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
love those people. I had those people on that did it, and you know, doing the Duggar one, and I think that'll be. I hope it's not 19 parts, but it should be fascinating, whatever it is. So you guys do all those. So you cover the gamut in terms of reality shows of
Yeah.
yesteryear and even
Yeah.
into today.
Yeah, like your teen moms, you know, we're gonna do like Say Yes to the Dress. It's a mixed bag of like nostalgia and just some interesting documentaries, all unscripted. So yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, you know, a lot of people that watch, like, we don't just watch Bravo, we watch all of it. So you say those shows, I'm like, yeah, I've seen all of those shows, you know? So that is the podcast to check out. All of that information, like I said, will be in my show notes. And Emily Rose, thank you so much for taking this much time with us today. I almost kept you for 2 hours. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ryan.